Saylor is selling more Bitcoin today. We'll break it down for you because this is going to have huge implications on things that are happening within the Bitcoin network, and I'll go right into it. Before we go there, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrustCapital. This is a place where you guys can diversify your portfolios by getting into some crypto IRAs. You can hold gold, silver, as well as almost any crypto you can imagine over there at iTrustCapital. So if you got some Ethereum you want to lock in, this is the place you can do it. Use our link down below. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get started, and you'll be golden. All right, so I want to start off with this right here. This, of course, is Michael Saylor going in on it over the weekend. We're going to need more charts. Last time he's been doing these, actually frequently, what happens when he pops these orange bubble charts up there is it usually means I'm going to acquire more Bitcoin. And, of course, right after this, we get an announcement coming in from Strategy that is pretty amazing. Strategy is announcing a digital credit and capital framework now, basically monetize Bitcoin. What does that mean? Well, there's a few points that they outlined within the article. They're going to be jacking the dividends on Stretch up to 12%. Such adjustments will have no effect on previously declared but unpaid dividends on Stretch, so if you're out there on it. But going forward, you're going to see the 12%. The other thing is this repurchase program, $1 billion aggregate purchase of its common stock. That is another area. And then, of course, this right here, which is the big news, and that is generating $1.25 billion to fund the USD dollar reserve. That simply means, guys, whether you want to call it a Bitcoin monetization program or what, it means we're going to sell it. The difference is that the board has approved this, but it hasn't been done just yet. So that's a real question mark going into the market on a Monday. I want to go to a clip because this is where Bitcoiners actually think raising the dividend might help Stretch. Take a look.
And this Monday, either marginally raise the dividend or do nothing. Now, the reason I say marginally raise the dividend is because...
Do you think that sends STRC up back towards 100 or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Joe, I'll bet you that STRC never gets to 100 again. I'll give you a $10,000 bet right now.
Well, I said, even if it does, Vinny, I said it sends it up toward 100. It doesn't need to be to 100. But what I'll say here is that just like its other
98, 99,
it doesn't need.
So one thing you have to question is, do you think it was a good idea? And of course, to the point of the chart, it would look as though it was at least going to fend off the vultures right now. Remember, Stretch hit 71.40. And of course, over the day right now, as we're trading, it has spiked slightly up to 83. So that's a little bit of a return. But I think this is in much more deep trouble. And there's many reasons why. We'll break it down for you. First thing I want to do is go through and look at the concept of sentiment. Often what happens in these markets, it's really not the market dynamic or even the utility or the functional method that's happening around crypto trading in general. It's sentiment. It boils down to what you and I and the market thinks is happening. Here's a clip to explain that.
Forensic means you listen to the price, not the press release. And capital is voting. It's rotating out of STRC and into rival Bitcoin treasury preferreds like Strive's SATA that pay more and carry less structure. When one near par instrument holds 100 and STRC sits 11 or 15% below that, that gap is the market pricing the difference. So every price movement of STRC is a sentiment indicator, and it leads because it's a yield-bearing product. That makes it a forecast.
Then, of course, you have the whole issue between what's been going on with Peter Schiff and also Michael Saylor, because there's been a very public battle on the value of Bitcoin. And Schiff has a whole thesis of where he thinks this is headed. Take a look.
It's $3.25 billion worth of Bitcoin to sell.
Right, which is
and that's just the beginning.
So the market likes it.
You're talking about a knee-jerk reaction to shore up the preferreds. The dividend just got raised to 12%, but the significance of this for Bitcoin itself is that Saylor basically just surrendered. Strategy has now gone from the biggest Bitcoin buyer they're now a seller. He can hide and say we're still a net buyer. He's not. He's going to be a net seller now. And to buy back stock. I don't see how the market is going to absorb this shift. A lot of people bought knowing that Strategy was going to buy. That was kind of their comfort, their safety buyer. Now that the markets are anticipating that Strategy is a seller, it's going to be the reverse. Oh, Strategy is going to sell. Let me get out first. Go to Saylor's page on X and read through the comments,
Yeah, I mean, he's not.
the vitriol there now, the hate
not a
for
demigod.
Saylor. Right? I never seen this before on his page. Saylor's a much bigger villain now than me.
This, technically, Schiff is correct. This is the pressure that, of course, is being put onto the market, mainly because everybody was looking at Saylor as being a net buyer. And I think, unfortunately, Schiff is right on this. He has become a net seller. First time, and remember, he has said this openly and publicly, that they would never be in a net selling position. That, of course, is not the case. The other concern is, how does the market start to address this? Because as we start to see this pressure, it usually means that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the capital structure itself. Listen to what Tom Lee had to say.
So I think as long as Bitcoin's price recovers, strategy is going to stage a big recovery. But as we know, markets are like war. Imagine like a formation of B-17 bombers flying over Germany, and there's a plane that's falling a little behind. That's who the fighters are going to attack and try to take down. And so I think investors are viewing Strategy's public capital structure, which is available to public markets, right? And they're going to test his capital structure. So I think that's the test he's facing right now. The best defense for him is to re-raising and increasing his cash balance. Provides a cushion to the entire cap stack. Now,
but again, raising cash without selling Bitcoin, right? Because I think that spooks
correct.
markets. When he sells Bitcoin, he's sort of the central bank of Bitcoin. When he sells, it creates a spooking, you know?
Correct. So if I was Michael Saylor, I would probably think that raising cash through selling the common might be the best strategy, but I'm not Michael Saylor.
This didn't necessarily go that way with the way Strategy's approaching it. They're actually raising cash through the sale of Bitcoin, monetization, and then actually repurchasing the common. So I don't know. This is going to get very, very unusual, and I think this puts an immediate amount of stress on Bitcoin in general. And there's more reasons why, because there's a lot happening behind the scenes that I'll explain in a minute. But I want to go to this right here, because this is one of the things you can kind of count on. Ethereum treasury companies continue to go down, yes, but Bitmine is something to keep an eye on. And I would agree with this statement by Ted Pillows. And the reason is that, remember, ETH is pulling in, of course, revenue. Anytime that you're holding ETH and you've got it staked, you're getting revenue. This is a flywheel that will continue to play out, which is why Tom Lee's position is completely different than Saylor's. Saylor, of course, is a whole new scenario right now. Stretch in general is very complicated. We've had them on the show. We're trying to figure out how do they do it. We get the explanation from their senior exec team. I still don't get it. I kind of thought maybe I just didn't understand, but guess what? Here's another one. Take a look.
Are you concerned?
I'll be very honest. I took multiple attempts trying to understand Stretch. I don't think I understand it fully. When this type of products become too complex, it becomes very hard to understand.
Yeah.
A parts of it becomes black boxes, etc. To the point where if I can't understand it, I'm not a very smart guy, but I'm not super dumb. So
it does worry me that if you're sitting here saying that this is overcomplicated.
There may be a few other guys who don't understand that either, right? So, but there's also the market perception where the market either makes him a hero or makes him a villain. The guy holds close to 1 million Bitcoins now. He sold 32, and the market reacts, and people blame him. It might be like a coincidence. It might be like a trigger.
That was CZ, and it kins me back to the last time he didn't really understand something specific, and that was the FTX books in general. So it is something that you have to kind of take into consideration. CZ's been in the market for a very long time, and not being able to get there is, I think, reasonable. Kevin over Virtual Bacon said something that I thought was interesting here. Saylor, the man whose brand will be never sell Bitcoin, just gave himself board approval to sell Bitcoin. We've just been talking about that. But what I want you to focus in on is this right here. An authorization is not a sale. When they actually sell a meaningful amount of Bitcoin, that's when I think you'll see short term. And I agree with Kevin in general. This will be the case where Bitcoin starts to get very, very volatile because of the activity that's going to take. We're talking about 1.2 billion potentially in here that is going to be selling at some, and there's no guarantee that it's going to stop there. This is simply a model that they may use going forward. So a lot of situations that are right in the middle of the market right now. Udi came in and said this right here. Once again, Saylor needs to do the absolutely just, screw the Bitcoin chart, sell 5 billion on the market nonstop for a week until it's done at any price. And that means even if it goes down to 40K. So stop announcing and telegraphing, just get it over with. Because right now I think there's a lot of orders that are probably going to be shorting this for some time. And to Tom Lee's point, this only isolates Saylor into a position where he could be attacked in a lot of different areas, basically challenging the capital structure in general. So the other consideration right now is there is a bit of a civil war that is brewing behind the scenes, and it's built around a particular vote that's going to be coming up in the Bitcoin community. It's called BIP 110. This is how nodes are run, and essentially you've got one side of the community, the Bitcoin faithful, who says we don't want any of the spam, so none of the other non-serious projects that are available on Bitcoin are out. And then, of course, you have the alternate side of that who says, no, we want other things that can run within the Bitcoin network. And this is essentially getting down to a vote, which means we're going to see volatility dramatically. We could end up with 2 Bitcoins. That's what it really boils down to. So that alone, and this is coming in August, just down the road. So be on the lookout, guys. Right there it is. ETA fork setting in at 8/7, August 7th at 11:07 p.m. This is something that I think we will see a lot of talk about. But more importantly, it is very important to watch what people do and how they are looking at BIP 110. This could be a huge issue going forward. Here's Paul Stork. We've had him on the show before talking about this. And he says, listen, but instead we got the worst of worst virtue signaling class, which includes BIP 110. And then he's also talking about Swan. And this is essentially causing a potential civil war that could put Bitcoin on an absolute destruction destination. So those kind of issues are facing and happening all at the same time, guys, of where this is happening with Stretch and MicroStrategy in general. I want to go to a clip here because now there are certain Bitcoin community members that are now thinking, maybe we do go the BIP 110 route. Take a look.
This war, the civil war, however you want to describe it, will come to its conclusion in August. There could be some market uncertainties reverberating into strategy, into Strive, and then maybe even into the prefs. For me personally, I am running knots with BIP 110.
The chaos that is going to ensue when BIP 110 goes in, we have no idea what's going to happen. What are the bad guys win the next chain split? The side that the market picks to be more valuable, that's the one that all the institutions are going to go with. The mining hash power is going to migrate to, right? Because that's worth more for their hash power.
It literally takes the monetary maximalist out of the network.
Yeah.
And I think Bitcoin itself will be the worse off because of it.
That is my position in a nutshell.
So as you can see, this is set on a destination course that could really harm Bitcoin in general. Here is Fred Krueger talking about this right here in terms of who would actually stand on the side of BIP 110. Now, granted, this is a group that is very narrow, that I think fall more in on the true Bitcoiner support side of things. But the fact that they're still getting 45% on the other side is interesting. And remember, this is all boiling down to being able to use the network for something else. So I don't think that institutions would follow into the BIP 110 mark. And if you don't have institutions doing that, then essentially you don't have a chain. And I think that is the concern that is going to be facing a lot of this coming down the pipe. And it's coming down the pipe very quickly, guys. We're talking about literally a week or 6 weeks away for this to happen. So just as a reminder, this is Saylor's position. He is very against BIP 110 because his theme and thesis is, pro rooms, pro ordinals. This, of course, is still very driven around capitalistic nature versus the thesis of what has been built out there which would be BIP 110 and the change it's going to represent for Bitcoin. So I think this is going to get very, very dirty in the next 6 weeks. Pay very good close attention. I don't know, maybe this is a good time to just exit the market, reconsider positioning, Watch where this market flows. If you want to exit and move back into an asset like Bitcoin and others, maybe that's a strategy that you could look at. I want to go over to one more clip here because this gets into what happens if Saylor actually dumps Bitcoin right now in reference to the people that are pro BIP 110. You'll see what I'm saying. Take a look.
But Joe, don't you think it's a dangerous proposition that Saylor can actually decide which way Bitcoin goes?
Dangerous, not necessarily, but I think impactful. He can't decide, but he can say, look, I want to hold this.
He can take his coins on the one side and just dump them and drive that price down to zero. This is Saylor now is the most powerful man in Bitcoin when if this chain split happens. You try convincing him that BIP 110 is the way forward. Good luck. Which side are you on, Joe? Which side are you on?
I'm on the BIP 110 side. I think that Bitcoin is money and a store of value, and that arbitrary data doesn't really have a place on it. But look, I think that even if we do get
so if there was a chain split and Saylor says I'm selling the BIP 110 side, well, how would you feel about that?
That would be interesting. That would be really spicy. Vinny, we might need to come on and do another debate if and when that happens.
So as you can see, that's the threat we're dealing with right there. I mean, literally, you're talking about kingmakers here, which is what Saylor could literally step into and decide. And this would be, I think, catastrophic. And to the the interview guest's point, is this is going to get very spicy. I totally agree with that. And I know this sounds a little doom and gloom, guys, but you need to be aware of this. All of this is timing. And you look at the timing in the market, the timing of what's happening on the regulatory front, and then you throw this into it. And of course, that is, what if we deal with a Clarity Act that actually stalls? Or better yet, worse yet, I should say, they put it into the Senate floor and it fails. If that were to be the case, because remember, they say they're going to go to the floor no matter what. If it actually goes to the floor and it fails, that would be catastrophic. Then you add in the component of the Fed potentially raising rates, which looks as though we may actually see one this year. Now you've got Bitcoin defending on all measures because the market's defending on all measures, Bitcoin being one of the biggest bellwethers of the market itself. All of this happening at the same time. BIP 110, the Fed, Clarity, what's going on with Stretch and MicroStrategy. And now you throw the icing on the cake of seeing a Bitcoin monetization plan of over $1 billion. This gets very concerning, and right now we're going to just stay very tied to it. We'll get more back to you guys, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.